and I am also extremely excited to now host the discussion with Jeff Turner from our incredible customer Vetoquinol. Jeff, welcome to the session.
Thank you. Thank you. It's nice to be here. Thank you.
So, Jeff, the previous session was, focused around how Creatio was helping Onco360 achieve their goals and overcome some of their challenges. And this session is all going to be focused on your success. So let me probably stop sharing my screen so we can have a little bit more of a face-to-face discussion, right? This is a lot better, of course. And Jeff, let's get started, right? So my first question is going to be pretty simple, right? Well, it is a simple question, but it's a very difficult topic. So Vetoquinol is obviously driven to innovate, right? You're innovating your company products and as well technology that supports this incredible business growth. So the question goes, what is actually helping you to maintain and keep this innovation mindset in business?
Yeah, so good question. I think the key characteristic of Vetoquinol that just keeps us wanting to innovate is the fact that we're growing both on a global level and here in the U.S. subsidiary of Vetoquinol. We've got a very aggressive growth goal. First, this year and for our next 5 years, we're actually releasing quite a few new products. We released 4 new products this year, and so we've got kind of a built-in desire for growth, both in depth and breadth, and I think that is greatly maintained both by the corporate culture, but also by our digital transformation over the past few years has, I think, opened up a lot of eyes across the company to what we could be capable of and how technology can actually help us both achieve and sustain the growth that we want. We're in an industry, the animal health industry, that is not typically on the cutting edge of technology, and so I'd say that we've experienced a very significant and very successful shift to digital transformation mindset and embracing technology over the past few years. And as more and more people across the company realize what technology can unlock for us and how it can drive growth, it really helps keep people inspired and very actively focused on the growth that we want to achieve. So.
Perfect. And you mentioned a few things about technology, right? So of course, no code is a huge trend, right? In 2021 and 2020 when it started kind of more and more emerging. So first of all, can you share a little bit of experience of what low code and no code technologies allowed you to achieve? And also a little bit from the perspective of how your strategy and your innovation strategy as well kind of shifted a little bit or maybe a lot with having access to no code technology of Creatio.
Sure. Yeah, I think that the having access to that kind of technology helps us, again, maintain that aggressive growth attitude, because the realization that people get as we shift to that kind of mindset, or the digital transformation mindset, is that there's a lot of truth in the concept that technology, particularly things like no code and low code technology, enable us to work smarter rather than harder. The traditional mindset in a non-technology industry is that when you grow, you just add more people, right? We just take the brute force method and hire more salespeople, hire more marketing people, hire more people to do everything. But when we really embrace something like Creatio's low code or no code platform, we're able to unlock a lot more capability with the same people that we already have, where we can really focus on 2 things. The first one is using that technology enables us to make one person seem like two or five or 10. That's a real key, especially when we're talking about efficiency of cost. We want both our salespeople out in the field, but also the folks that are working internally on marketing and promotional and key account management, and of course all of our data folks. We want to be able to get the most out of each of those people's capability without either making making people work 80-hour weeks, or deciding that we need to hire two or three more people for everything. So that's the first key, I think, to that, unlocking the capability that low code and no code technology affords us. And the second one is really focused out, particularly on the field, but also with our marketing efforts. One of the things that the technology really helps us with is enabling really precise targeting of high value work, rather than trying everything and hoping that we get an ROI. And Creatio is a big part of that. The data that we track now regarding both our sales and marketing activity and other related activities enables us to really really apply some data science and good analytics to recognizing what's provided ROI and what has not, and also in a very tactical sense, really identify where are the high priority targets for our sales force to spend their time. There's no salesperson in the world that can visit every single account in their territory, on a monthly or biannually or annual basis. Typically you don't want territories that are so small that a salesperson can be everywhere all the time. So it's really important to identify where should the salesperson be spending the time, and what should they be doing with their time when they're visiting that account. And both the data that we collect and track through Creatio, and then the ability for us to modify Creatio to meet some of our different business concerns really helps us zero in on being precise and strategic with our tactical choices. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you would allow me, I'm going to use you as a quote when you said that you have 10 people in one with low code and no code technologies, because this is incredible. I got to say, this is just great. So going back to the digital transformation, right? So it's definitely not a destination, it's a journey, right? And it's always ongoing. And Vetoquinol have been through their digital transformation for 3 years now, right? Well, about 3 years. So could you share a little bit of your experience specifically in how do you maintain this strategy to continuously transform the company and go through this digital transformation? Because like any process, right, it's a little bit tiresome in some cases, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of companies, they actually drop it because they're unsuccessful, or because they think that they've reached it. So how do you continuously develop and maintain this digital transformation strategy?
Yeah, so I think one of the most important things about, especially in regard to maintaining the strategy, is that when we really focus on our digital transformation, it really makes us focus again and revisit our overall business model. And one of the best things about the digital transformation is that as we implement tools like Creatio, it really behooves us to focus on what is the common information language that we're using in this tool and across our other tools, our non-CRM tools, and therefore in the business practice day to day. I think that in a way, this actually keeps people invigorated and embracing the transformation, because when you get everybody speaking the same language, from data through information through the business model, it gets rid of a lot of negative distractions. You're not constantly trying to figure out, what did this person mean, or do we have a different perspective on results because we're simply not talking about the same thing, or we're comparing apples to oranges. So I think that as we implement digital tools like Creatio, it really forces that common language that helps to keep the change seem very positive rather than negative. And then, of course, the other thing that is a huge contributor is that, quite simply, people can see the results. There are a lot of people here in Vetoquinol USA who recognize who can tell you very quickly that since we implemented Creatio and since we really committed to a digital transformation and having a technology mindset, our business has improved in specific, tangible, recognizable ways. And when people can see that, and when they can see it really quickly after we embark on the journey or start the transformation, it keeps them really eager for more. Every small piece of success that we have makes people think about, well, what else could we do, and what and how quickly can we do it? That might be the good problem to have that comes out of a successful digital transformation like this, is that it makes people want more constantly.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And this is also kind of another part to what I wanted to ask. You mentioned that you are continuously and kind of going back to your business model, and you're reviewing your business model. Have you as well kind of thought about maybe introducing additional, channels of sales, or maybe introducing a new business model to Vetoquinol? And how fast do you think Loco can support in implementing and introducing a new business model for Vetoquinol?
Yeah, absolutely. I think once again, just like I mentioned earlier, when people see what kind of technical capability we have through tools like Creatio, and what how that can influence our success, or enable even just new possibilities for how we do business, they start thinking naturally about, well, how could the business change? And this is a really positive thing. There are certainly times in any business when you think, this might be a good idea, but I just don't know how we do it. And I think that Creatio is one of our key tools that gets us past the conversation of could we do it, and makes people feel confident that we could. Largely because people have seen so many examples of how we're able to adapt on the fly to a need, and the low code and no code adaptability of Creatio is a huge part of that. I think back to 20 years ago, before I was working at Vetoquinol, I was working at a company that made donor management software, and this was what I'll now call the traditional software model, right? I don't want to call it the old way, because I don't feel like I was around for anything that's old now, but we'll call it traditional. And in that traditional model, if we wanted to make a change to the front end, even something, I could give you a really concrete example. I remember being the technical person to help with a sales call to a potential client in Canada. And one of the really basic questions that came up was, can you handle Canadian physical mailing address formats? and the answer at the time was no, the software doesn't do that. The mailing addresses in the software are designed around the US format. And to make that relatively simple change required first the backend database specialist for the development team to make their change, go through the whole dev process, test it out, check out that this didn't cause any problems anywhere else in the software. And then the front end developer could get involved and make the change, add the right fields to the UI and so forth. I mean, this was a 3 to 6 week task, and if it was really highly prioritized as a must have now, it would have been maybe a 1 or 2 week task, drop everything else, right? But that's an intense amount of labor for a really simple change. Fast forward 20 years here, and we had a scenario here at Vetoquinol where we wanted to make a change to the UI for our email marketing campaigns. We have many accounts that have multiple contacts, and we've got plenty of different algorithms and business processes for choosing a contact at an account when we want to send just a single copy of an email to that account for a marketing campaign. But we decided that one of the things we wanted to add was the ability for one of our sales reps to go into the account and say, this particular contact is the high priority contact for this marketing campaign, for this subject. And it took us all of an hour to affect that change in Creatio, to actually put some fields in there for the sales team to be able to go in and mark who that high priority contact should be. And honestly, the only reason that it took us an hour was that probably 30 minutes of it or so were spent on discussing exactly how would we want to do it, not how do we do it technically, but what's the exact user experience that we want. And I remember looking back at that and thinking back to the scenario at the company 2 decades ago, that, man, if we had tried to do this there, we probably just wouldn't have done it, because it would have required so much time. The marketing campaign would have come and gone before the tool change could have been made. So I think that, to me, that's one of my favorite examples of how the concept of no code and low code platform management really just enables business. Nobody's ever asking, can we do it? Well, when they ask, can we do it, what they're really asking is do you have enough time around all the other things we've asked you to do, because we realize that we can do so much here. So
hashtag accelerate, definitely, because, and again, great story. So another question, and this is also actually coming from the chat. So based on your amazing experience and success, where would you suggest organizations that in the beginning of the journey start when they're thinking about digitalizing their workflows and going through the transformation?
Yeah, so I actually wrote down 3 things earlier when I was trying to think about what would I recommend to people that are just getting started at this. Now that Vetoquinol USA has been using Creatio for almost 3 years, and many of our other subsidiaries have been starting up in waves. So I always think about what would I tell the subsidiaries that are just starting now. The first thing that came to mind was give a lot of thought to your information model and your business model. Okay, and this is a really key thing, and again, for those of us that are old enough to remember more traditional software, the reason I think this is so important is that, honestly, in the past, you would have to look at any given software application and say, will this work? Can I make my business model fit what this software does, right? So I think that when you're getting ready to start with a digital transformation in general, and a tool like Creatio in particular, it's a great thing to be able to think about, what does my business model look like, and how do I want the tool to adapt to fit my business model? Because the tool will adapt to fit your business model, and that probably seems like a no-brainer to somebody who's a little bit newer to the digital world, but for those of us that have been around a little longer, it's a complete paradigm shift. The second thing is, I encourage people to think in terms of small incremental changes, and the reason why is that again, looking at older models, at non-low code or non-no code models, you really had to bundle the changes that you wanted into big packages, because you had to commit to an agile sprint cycle, right? And you had to, as long as the developers in here making this change, it makes sense to have them make 5 more changes at the same time. So it's always big development. Well, now we can decide today that we want to do one thing, and we can decide tomorrow that we want to add another change, and on Thursday we can do another change. So you don't have to architect the entire platform to meet this year's strategic goals. You could be changing it on the fly. So get in the habit of thinking of the small incremental changes and deciding what would have the most impact on my business now by doing that. And then the third thing that I've been telling all of our subsidiaries who are getting ready to launch Creatio is, plan for more time than you would expect for development work, which at first sounds like a negative, but it's actually not. I don't make that recommendation because the development is hard. I make that recommendation because the development is easy, and once again, when people discover that you can adapt the platform to do what you need it to do, all of a sudden the doors are all open to them. Your other departments, the marketing department, the sales department, the customer management department, they all realize, oh my gosh, we can actually make the tool do what we need it to. And it's amazing when you have that realization, how many things you come up with that you would like to actually have the tool do. Once people realize you have the capability to make business impactful changes, they will find business impactful changes that they want. So I tell people, plan to spend more time doing that than you thought, not because it's hard, but because it's easy. No.
Absolutely. Jeff, I would love to carry on with this interview, but unfortunately we're out of time.
Okay.
Thank you again for your time. Thank you for sharing your success and your incredible story of the journey that Vetoquinol was going through and is still going through and will be, right?
Yep, definitely. We're looking forward to, we see success every day, and we're looking forward to a whole lot more of it. So thanks for the support, and thanks for having me on to discuss with you.
Absolutely. Jeff, thanks again. And I hope to see you very soon again.
Definitely. Thank you.